Hello friends, I hope you and your families are doing good. I am Priyanka Purohit from Sharda Samriddhi Guidance SSG. I hope you all are liking this series of accounting standard and I would like to know your views and suggestions in the comment box below. So today we are going to start with accounting standard 1, that is disclosure of accounting policies. So let's start it. So you must have so this accounting standard does not deals that it does not tells you which accounting policy you have to adopt. It just provide disclosure requirement for the accounting policies. So it is the management who decide which accounting policy is to be followed. So in this accounting standard, we will first understand the meaning of accounting policies. So what are accounting policies? Accounting policies refer to the specific accounting principles and the methods used for applying those principles. So what are accounting policies? These are the specific accounting policies and the methods used for applying those principles. So you can refer it as a set of rules or protocols. Example can be, for evaluation of inventory, we can either follow FIFO method or the weighted average method. Similarly, for cash flow statement, we can either follow direct method or indirect method. For depreciation, this SLM and WDV is now does not considered as an accounting policy, but it is regarded as an estimate. So you can cut it from here. Earlier it was an example of accounting policy, but now it is considered as an accounting estimate. Now we will look into which are the fundamental accounting assumptions. So on these assumptions, these are the assumptions which a user of financial statement, that is the all the stakeholders which use this financial statement to make decision, they have in their minds. So they have three basic assumptions which are the fundamental accounting assumptions. The first one being going concern assumption, that is the business will continue for unforeseeable future. The second one is consistency. It means that the accounting policies are consistently applied from previous year to current year. And the last one is accrual basis. Accrual assumption is that the transactions are recorded in the period in which they occur. So these are the fundamental accounting assumptions, and these assumptions need not be disclosed in the financial statement. Only if there is any departure from any of these assumptions, this should be disclosed. Now let us look into the basic disclosure requirement of this accounting standard, that is disclosure of accounting policies. So basically it want all significant accounting policies to be disclosed. The second point is, it the disclosure of such accounting policy should form part of the financial statement. And the third one is, such accounting policies must be disclosed at one place. So if we look into the deeper meaning of this, all significant accounting policies should be disclosed so that the user can make an informed decision and can have a better understanding and can do perfect analysis. Also, it should form part of the financial statement. It means that it must be attached to the financial statement only after the P&L, balance sheet, CFS, all, and uh, and it should not be part of director's report or auditor's report, but it should be a part of financial statement, and it must be disclosed at one place. That is, all accounting standards. Say, let us say there are 15 accounting policies you are following. So all those 15 accounting policies must be disclosed at one place. Say not say, but we have to always mention all the accounting policies in the notes to accounts part. Now let us look into the another point, which is selection of accounting policies. As I have already stated that this accounting standard does not prescribe which policies you have to follow. It will be decided by the management. It just states that you have to disclose the policy, and it also states how you can select the accounting policies, that is which all points you have to keep in your mind while selecting a particular accounting policy. So financial statement should present a true and fair view of the state of the affairs of the company as well as the profit and loss of the enterprise. So to achieve this objective, we have to follow a certain accounting policies. And how to select accounting policies? Consideration for selection are: first one is prudence. What is the meaning of prudence? It means that we don't we should not overestimate our income or inflows, and we should not underestimate our expenses or outflows. An example can be: we should we provide or make a provision for credit discount on creditors? No, because it will overstate our income. Similarly, in case of provision for doubtful debt on RDD, we must do that because it is a conservative approach. The next point is substance over form. It means that we should focus on the economic substance and economic status of the transaction and not on the legal. An example can be: a property was transferred and also possession was given before 31st March 2017, let us say, before 31st March that is ending, and only legal formalities, that is paperwork, is remaining, registration is remaining, but the entire property or possession has been given. So since all risk and rewards are transferred, you have to consider it as sale for that particular year only. Another example of substance over form can be regarding the sale and leaseback transaction. The third point which we have to keep in our mind while selecting accounting policy is a materiality. It means that while selecting accounting policy, we should also consider all the material facts which might influence the decision of users. So now let us look into the last part of this accounting standard one, that is disclosure of changes in accounting policy. So as such, in starting we have heard and learned that the fundamental assumption is consistency. That is, the accounting policies must be applied consistently, but it does not restrict or restrain enterprise from changing its accounting policy, but it can do so only under three conditions. The first condition is the change is required by law or by statute. For example, nowadays dividend is regarded as contingent liability, and it is recorded only in the period in which it is paid, and not proposed dividend is not recorded. The next one in which accounting policy can be changed is due to compliance with any particular accounting standard. So let us say accounting standard 2, that is valuation of inventories, follows that inventories should be valued at cost or NRV, whichever is low, and you are following cost basis or NRV basis. Then to comply with accounting standard 2, you have to comply with you have to either value inventories on cost or NRV, whichever is lower. And the last point on which you can change the accounting policy is for more appropriate presentation of financial statements. So the 3 points are: when it is required by statute or law, when it has better presentation or appropriate presentation, and when you want to comply with any accounting standard. So the last point of this accounting standard is disclosure of such changes in accounting policy. So you have to disclose the changes, that is the effects on profit or loss, that is either increase in profit or increase in profit or increase in loss, whatever the case may be. You have to disclose that, and if it has a material effect either in the current period or in later period, then you have to reasonably expect its materiality effect, and it should be disclosed. Also, if amount by which any item in financial statement is affected by such change, it should also be disclosed. And lastly, where such amount is not ascertainable, that is, you cannot ascertain the effect of changes in accounting policy either wholly or in part, this fact that you cannot ascertain, this fact must be indicated in the financial statements. So by this we have completed the concept part of accounting standard 1. Now we will move on to question answers of ICAI practice manual and study material. So now let us look into the practice manual question. Write a short note on concept of materiality. So as per para 17 of AS1 disclosure of accounting policies, it states that the financial statement should disclose all material items, that is items the knowledge of which might influence the decision of the user of the financial statement. Materiality depends upon the size of the item or the error judged in the particular circumstance of its omission or misstatement. From a positive perspective, materiality has to do with the significance of an item or an event to warrant attention in the accounting process. From a negative point of view, it means materiality is critical because otherwise a great deal of time might be spent on trivial matters, that is less important matters in the accounting process. Individual judgments are required to assess materiality or to decide what appropriate minimum quantitative criteria are to be set for the given situation. What is material to one organization may not be material to another organization. So it is a very subjective term. For example, a long-term investor is interested in current value of fixed asset like building, while the banker may not consider it significant for a short term. Similarly, a pair of scissors, ball pen, sharpeners, waste paper basket could be used for a number of years, but it is still treated as an expense and not as an asset. So here the criteria of more than year commodity can be used for more than 12 months could be regarded as asset is not applicable. Also, the omission of passe in financial statement is also due to their insignificant effect to the users of the financial statement in making their decision. So we also ignore passe. Rupee, we all only consider the round of rupee and we ignore the paise. Some examples: requirement as to the statement of P&L, part 2 of schedule 3 of the Companies Act 2013. Any item under which income or expense exceed 1% of the revenue or 1 lakh, whichever is higher, is to be shown as a separate and distinct item against the appropriate account head in the statement of P&L. So this part 2 of schedule 3 of the Companies Act 2013, it states that to get to know the concept of materiality, materiality is defined as income or expense exceeding 1% of the revenue or 1 lakh, whichever is higher. Any item with such amount should be disclosed separately and distinctly. The broad heads shall be decided taking into account the concept of materiality and presentation of true and fair view of the financial statements. The relevance of information is affected by its materiality. So the relevance of information is also affected by its materiality. Information is material if its misstatement, that is omission or erroneous statement, could influence the economic decision of users taken on the basis of the financial information. So materiality provides a threshold or a cutoff point rather than being a primary qualitative characteristics which the information must have if it is to be useful. So it is just a threshold or a cutoff point, that is a limit, financial limit, and that is quantitative limit rather than a primary qualitative characteristics. So now we will look into the illustrations from study material. ABC Limited was making provision for non-moving inventories based on no issues for the last 12 months up to 31st March 2016. The company wants to provide for the year ending 31st March 2017 based on technical evaluation. The total value of inventory, so earlier it was considering for no issues and now it want to change its non-moving inventories provision to technical evaluation. The total value of inventory is 100 lakhs. Provision required on the basis of 12-month issue is 3.5 months and provision as required on the basis of technical evaluation is 2.5 lakhs. Does this amount to change in accounting policy? Can the company change the method of provision? So as the answer states, the decision of making provision for non-moving inventories on the basis of technical evaluation does not amount to change in accounting policy. Accounting policy of a company may require that the provision for non-moving inventories should be made. So, okay, accounting policy will state what? That any provision should be made, but it does not state which type of method you have to apply for applying such provision, that is whether technical evaluation or on basis of issue. So the method of estimating the amount of provision may be changed in case of more prudent estimate can be made. So it is just a method of estimating. So it is not accounting policy, but it is accounting estimate, and such estimate can change according to the different situation or when more prudent estimate can be made. So in the given case, considering the total value of inventory, the change in the amount required provision of non-moving inventory from 3.5 lakhs to 2.5 lakhs is not material. The disclosure can be made for such change in the following lines by ways of notes to the accounts in the financial account of the ABC Limited for the year ended 16/17. The company has provided for non-moving inventories on the basis of technical evaluation, unlike the preceding years, because earlier it was following no issues method and now it's following the technical evaluation. Had the same method been followed, that is no issues method, in the previous year, the profit for the year and the corresponding effect on the year and net assets would have been lower by 1 lakh. The difference between these two, 3.5 and 1.5, 2.5. Okay then, so let us now move on to the next illustration. Jagannath Limited had made rights issue of shares in 2015. In the offer document to its member, it had projected a surplus of rupees 40 crore during the accounting year to the end on 31st March 2017. The draft results of the year prepared on here to followed accounting policies and presented for perusal of the board of directors showed a deficit of 10 crores. The board, in consultation with the managing director, decided on the following. First one is value year ended inventory, that is the closing value of inventory at works cost 50 crore instead of the hitherto method of valuation of inventory at the prime cost, that is 30 crores. So in the present case, as we can see, in 2015 the company had made a rights issue in which the offer document for this they had mentioned that projected that the company would have a surplus of 40 crore, but in the actual year 2017 they are having a deficit of 10 crore. So to reverse this deficit of 10 crore and to stay in tune with the projected surplus of 40 crore, the board of has decided to make certain changes, that is in the close of valuation of inventory. The second one is regarding the depreciation. The third one is not to provide for the after sales expenses during the warranty period, and the last one is to provide for permanent fall in the value of investment so that they can increase the profit. As a chief accountant of the company, you are asked by the managing director to draft the notes of the accounts for inclusion in the annual report for 16/17. So we will look into each of these four cases one by one. So first one was value year end inventory at works cost 50 crore instead of the here too, that is the method which they are already following of inventory at prime cost 30 crore. So as per accounting standard 2, we have to follow cost or NRV whichever is lower. So here the valuation must be on 30 crores, but they are trying to work on 50 crores because if they increase closing stock value, then it will increase the profit also. So now let us look on to the answer first. As per AS1, any change in accounting policies which has a material effect in the current period or which is reasonably expected to have a material effect in later period should be disclosed. In the case of a change in accounting policy which has a material effect in current period, the amount by which any item in financial statement is affected by such change should also be disclosed to the extent ascertainable. So if it is having material effect in current period, we have to disclose to which item it is affecting in financial statement, and we have to ascertain, that is measure such change, and it must be disclosed. Where amount is not ascertainable and if we cannot ascertain the amount either wholly or in part, this fact must be indicated that we cannot ascertain the amount. Accordingly, the notes on account should properly disclose the changes and its effect. So both things have to be disclosed in notes to accounts. So the notes to accounts will deal with the first matter, that is change in valuation of inventory. During the year, inventory has been valued at factory cost against the practice of valuing it at prime cost, as was the practice till last year. So this point is indicating that there is a change in accounting policy. This has been done to take cognizance of the more capital intensive method of production on account of heavy capital expenditure during the year. So this, the company have given the justification that this has been done so as to cognizance, that is to record the more capital intensive method of production on account of heavy capital expenditure. As a result of this, the year end inventory has been valued at 50 crores and the profit for the year is increased by 20 crores. How by 20 crores? Because the earlier the closing value, if we followed the earlier method then of prime valuing the inventory at prime cost, the closing stock would have been 30 crores, but since we have changed the method and we are valuing it at now 50 crores, then it will increase our profit by 20 crore. Let us now look into the second case, which was regarding depreciation. To provide depreciation for the year on SLM basis on account of substantial additions in gross block during the year, instead of on reducing balance method, which was hitherto adopted. So earlier the company was adopting the reducing balance method, that is a WDV method. Now it wants to charge depreciation on straight line basis. As a consequence, the charge for depreciation at 27 crore is lower than the amount of 45 crores which would have been provided had the old method been followed by 18 crores. So as we know, to increase profit, either we can increase the income or we can reduce the expenses. So now they are trying to reduce the depreciation charge, that is if they follow WDV it was 45 crore, now if they apply SLM it would be 27 crore. So by 18 crores our profit will also increase. So let us look into the notes to accounts part first. In the view of heavy capital intensive method of production introduced during the year, the company has decided to change the method of providing depreciation from reducing balance method to straight line method. So again the reason is given the same, that is the heavy capital expenditure and intensive method of production. As a result of this change, depreciation has been provided at 27 crores, which is lower than the charge which would have been made had the old method and old rates were applied, that is by 18 crores. To that extent, the profit of the year is increased. So we have already looked into this point. Now let us move on to the third point, that is not to provide for the after sales expenses during the warranty period. Till the last year, provision at 2% of the sales used to be made under the concept of matching of cost against revenue, and actual expenses used to be charged against the provision. Now the board has decided to account for the expenses as and when actually incurred. Sales during the year total to rupees 600. So earlier the company was making a provision, every year it was making a provision of 2% on sales as after sales expenses, so as to match with the cost against the revenue. But now it has decided that it will incur this expense, that is after sale expense, on actual basis, and this they will save it from the hitting it from the P&L expense side, thereby increasing their profit. So far the company has been providing 2% of sales for meeting after sales expense during the warranty period. With the improved method of production, the probability of defects occurring in the products has reduced considerably. So they are saying that since we have used this heavy capital intensive method and intensive method of production, so the improved it is an improved method of production, so there will be less probability of defects occurring. So there would not be any high charges or expenses to be for after sale expenses, so we can account it as and when they are incurring. Hence the company has not provided to make a provision for such expense, but to account the same as and when expenses are incurred. So they are saying that provision for making or incurring such expense is not necessary, since the defects will be very low. Due to this change, the profit for the year is increased by 12 crore than that would have been the case if the old policy were continued. So this 12 crore, how the figure has arrived, let us look into that. 2% of sales, that is 600, would be 1200 crore. So now let us look into the last part of the question, which says provide for permanent fall in the value of investment, which fall had taken place over the past 5 years, the provision being 100 crores. So since past 5 years they have made a provision of 10 crores as a temporary fall in investment. Now they are going to transfer or consider this fall in the value of investment as a permanent fall, and thus they will
Thank you so much for
remove
watching.
it from
Please
the
watch all
P&L
the other parts, that is the
and
second
reduce
part,
it from
third
the
part,
value
and
of
the
the
fourth
investment
part
only.
also.
So let us
This is
look
me,
into
Priyanka
the answer
Purohit, signing
first.
off. Thank you so much.
That is a notes to account. The company has decided to provide for 10 crores for the permanent fall in the value of investment which has taken place over the period of last 5 years. The provision so made has reduced the profit disclosed in the accounts by 10 crores. So since we were considering this as a temporary fall, we were making a provision for it which was hitting the P&L expense side. Now we are considering it as a permanent fall, and now we will reduce it from the investments. So this will increase our profit. Now let us move on to the last question of AS1. XYZ Limited is engaged in the business of financial services and is undergoing tight liquidity position. Since most of the assets of the company are blocked in various claims or petitions in the special court, XYZ has accepted intercorporate deposit, that is ICDs, and it is making its best effort to settle the dues. There were claims at varied rates of interest from lenders from the due date of ICDs to the date of repayment. The company has provided interest as per the terms of the contract till the due date, and a note for non-provision of interest on the due date to the date of repayment was affected in the financial statements. So in this case, the company, since it is having a very crucial financial crunch situation, so it has accepted corporate deposits, and for that deposits it has provided interest as per the terms of the contract only till the due date, and a note for non provision of interest on the due date to the date of repayment they are affecting in the it was mentioned in the financial statement. On account of uncertainties existing regarding the determination of the amount, and in absence of any specific legal obligation at present as per the terms of contract, the company considered that these claims are in nature of claims against company not acknowledged as debt. So these, now they are considering these claims against the company not acknowledged as debt, and the same has been disclosed by way of notes to account instead of making a provision in P&L statement. So they are saying that it is uncertain that how can we compute the actual amount to be payable, and in absence of any legal obligation they are considering it as just disclosing it by way of note and not making provision which was required. State whether the treatment done by the company is correct or not. So as you can see, the treatment is not correct. Let us look into the answer first, because we have to apply the concept of prudence, that is we have to account all the expenses and income for the period only, and we have to go it on accrual basis, that is we have to account for all the expenses as and when they accrue. Also we should not undermine our expenses, and we should not overestimate our profits. So to meet with all these requirements of this accounting standard, we have to make a provision for it in the P&L. Let us look into the answer, which states that as per para 17 of AS1 disclosure of accounting policy, it recognizes prudence as one of the major consideration governing the selection and application of accounting policies. In view of uncertainty attached to future events, profits are not anticipated but recognized only when realized, though not necessarily in cash. Whether they are in cash or not, it does not matter, but it must not be anticipated but recognized only on cash basis, that is receipt basis, only when they are realized. provision is made for all known liabilities and losses, even though the amount cannot be determined with certainty and presents only a best estimate in light of available information. So we have to do all these things, that we have to not anticipate profit but recognize as and when they realized, and for all known liabilities and losses we have to make a provision for it, whether the amount can be determined with certainty or not, and only on the basis of best estimate we can make a provision for it. Also, as per para 10 of accounting standard 1, accrual is one of the fundamental accounting assumptions. So, irrespective of the terms of the contract, so long as the principal amount of loan is not repaid, since the principal amount of loan is not repaid, the lender cannot be replaced in a disadvantageous position for non-payment of interest in respect of the overdue amount. So, it states that as long as you have not repaid the principal amount of the loan fully, you cannot make the lender in a disadvantageous position, that you will also not pay the interest on the overdue amount. Once already you are not paying the principal amount to the lender, and now you are also not making payment or not accounting for the interest on the overdue amount. This is completely wrong. From the aforesaid, it is apparent that the company has an obligation on account of overdue interest. So there is an obligation. The question is saying that it is not a, there is not a specific legal obligation, but it states that since you have not repaid the principal amount, you are obliged to make payment of interest on the overdue amount. So in this situation, the company should provide for the liability, since it is not waived by the lenders. If the lenders would have waived or granted any relief to the company, then they would have not provided for it, but since the lender has not waived it off, it must provide for the liability at an amount estimated or on reasonable basis based on the facts and circumstances of each case. However, in respect of overdue of interest amount which are settled, the liability should be accrued to the extent amount settled. Non-provision of overdue interest liability amounts to violation of accrual basis of accounting. Since you have to make the payment, and you can't say that you cannot be reasonably estimated, and hence you have not provided for it, so this would amount to violation of accrual basis. Therefore, the treatment done by the company of not providing interest amount for the due date to the date of repayment is not correct. So by this we have concluded with accounting standard 1. I hope you all like this accounting standard series and it was of some help to you. Now let us move in the next video with a new accounting standard. Then this is me, Priyanka Purohit, signing off. Thank you so much.